The San Diego Prep Insiders Basketball Podcast is powered by Jersey Mike's. Jersey Mike's, a sub above.
What can I say?
Yeah, what you can say is that welcome to a prophesized edition of the San Diego Prep Insider Basketball.
Call me Miss Cleo.
I'm going to call you the Oracle at Delphi because I'm old and I make outdated references by several thousands of years. Shout out to anyone that took AP history that got that reference. Christian Pedersen, the arch mage wizard Aaron Bergen. We have SFC, we have El Camino. Only one of these teams can win a final. Mm-hmm. We will find out very soon who is going to actually win it. Before we find out that, though, let's find out who each one of us is going to pick to win it.
You know what? I finally did remember my pick for this one. I picked Santa Fe Christian to repeat as Division I champions on an earlier web pod IG live cast, and I'm sticking with it. I'm picking Santa Fe Christian to win another narrow game. What they did against Mission Hills, I was there in attendance, was just absolutely one of the more impressive displays of coaching I've seen in quite some time. We talk about really good coaches. We talked about Davion Famper. We talk about Mike Hopps. We talk about John Olive. But you have to give a lot of credit to Chad Bickley at Santa Fe Christian.
Absolutely. He's a CIF champion. He's literally a champion.
And he was coach of the year last year. But, I don't think people realize, when we talk about private schools and the era of recruiting and all of those things, Santa Fe Christian has not recruited a single player to their program. Most of the kids have been there since elementary, middle school. And they haven't had a bevy of Division I caliber talent. He takes what he gets and he coaches them up, and the results speak for themselves.
To me, it somewhat mirrors the success of a John Olive, where you look at it and you go, okay, SFC hasn't necessarily launched a lot of kids onto mid-major or above D1 schools, but at the same time, they showed no signs of struggling to win in clutch games.
No. And so I think where the breakdown here is going to be on the inside. Luke Sanders did an excellent job on Warren Washington, despite giving up 8 inches in height. And I think that, with TJ Askew, Luke Sanders, Matt Stevenson, if he's back for that game, you have a really big front line and enough guard play to frustrate Jalen Flanagan or to at least neutralize some of the other pieces. Everyone's going to have to pay attention to Brad Yasukochi now after the game that he had against Orange Glen. I know you'll talk a little bit about that. But I think that, in the event of a stalemate, I think that Chad Bickley will just have a little more execution and they get the championship.
I'll play devil's advocate. Maybe that's the wrong word with a Christian school. And I'll play the other side of the coin. Yeah. And also I'll do this. I'll just go ahead and pick the other team for a second year in a row against an SFC finals because we can roll back a second set of tape of me picking Lincoln
and
last year.
Lincoln too. Yeah.
So look, this is brutal because defending coach of the year, defending CIF D1 champions, but El Camino was in this game 2 years ago with several pieces from this existing squad, and so this is just like having to pick your favorite child, which I'm sure that you have much more insight than I do in, but
we don't do that.
But it's tough. This is a brutal game, so I will say that I'll play the El Camino side of the hand. Okay. Brad had a Yasukocha, something like that. I apologize, Brad. He had an amazing game, but he also proved to me the counter argument as to you argue so much of how they shut down Warren Washington because there was so much focus on he's physically big and we need to box him out and we need to isolate him. There is no necessarily guaranteed interior presence from El Camino. El Camino, I think, probably could stay out of the paint as a team and do the exact same performance as if they had put 2 or 3 guys in the paint on any given time. They just don't run an offense like that. They don't run a defense like that.
They don't have a guy taller than 6'3".
They don't have a – yeah, they just don't – they get close, but then they pull up for that jumper. So it just is a very different approach if you don't have that one guy of if we shut down the nexus of our offense. You can say all you want about Jalen Flanigan, but even then Jalen Flanigan does not execute in a way that is – absolutely essential on both ends of the court for El Camino's success. You could isolate him and have him have a game like Warren Washington did with 8 points, 12 board, like something like that out of the way for what Jalen's used to, and there would be enough pieces on the rest of that board that really the whole flow of the game wouldn't change for El Camino. So that being said, I just see El Camino in an outlast, survive. Just this is going to be a brutal game. We talked about some of these other games being, it's going to be so exciting. There's going to be so much offense. This game is going to be 2 teams trying their best to shut the other team down as opposed to play up their game. This is going to be 2 teams where it's going to be grind it, slow the clock down, get that mid-range jumper, box those guys. It's going to be a technical execution game. If this was an MMA fight, we'd be talking about how these guys are technical executors, not necessarily like takedown punchers or something like that. This is going to be a game where you'll get into the second half. I think there's going to be a lot of fouls. I think there's going to be a lot of people jostling for balls where you'll see that's where it gets decided who fouls out first, who goes to the free throw.
So in other words, you see this being like last year's game.
Exactly like
an ugly win.
An ugly win that I will just say that El Camino comes out on top for the reasons, like I said, of SFC won't be able to shut down everybody. They can isolate one, but it doesn't do as much damage to the flow of El Camino as it did to taking Warren Washington out of the flow for Mission Hills. I'm not going to go into overtime. I'm not going to go into specific scores. I don't have that level of basketball knowledge or acumen. I will go ahead and write my apology speech to SFC and just be ready, because that's how this one is a coin toss. Of all the games, really this one is the most coin tossy of all of them. You could make the exact same argument that I made for El Camino against El Camino, and you can make the same argument. The coaching staff at El Camino is not strangers to the game. They're not
Tom Tarantino's been around the block twice on Sunday.
Exactly.
Afternoon.
He's not a fly-by-night AAU replacement coming in to coach up his son's team or something like that. This is 2 coaching staffs and 2 teams that are so...
Who are you subtweeting with that?
Nobody. These are just two coaches and 2 teams that are so evenly matched that if you looked at these without names and you just did an academic test of them, it'd be a double-blind study. You'd have no idea who you were picking to win. Yeah. So that being said, like I said, we could take an hour and a half to unpack all of this. Give me just one thing, though, that you think might be the kind of out-of-left-field X factor for this game.
Out-of-field X factor will be for Santa Fe Christian Spencer Ryden. If he hits anywhere above 50% on his 3-point shots, that's going to be the deciding factor. 6-foot kid, really, really accurate shooter off the catch, and he's got a very quick release. It's difficult to close out on a guy like him because the ball's gone before you get there. So I'm going to say Spencer Ryden will be my out of left field for Santa Fe Christian, and for El Camino, I will say it's got to be one of the 2 freshmen, Tyson Robinson or Keave Love. I think one of the 2 of them will have to provide some type of offensive output off the bench for them to just kind of stay in the game. And some of those moments where maybe guys are in foul trouble, or where maybe Jalen or Brad or RJ needs a breather, I think they can't come in and just be placeholders. They have to provide something.
Well, we'll find out. The game is very rapidly approaching us. Yes. We will be there
Friday night.
Friday
afternoon.
Friday afternoon, 3:00.
They get to play in the arena. They get to play at the Big Boy place.
At the Big Boy Gym, actually. This one's at SDSU, 3:00 on Friday. We will be there with highlights, post-game breakdown, interviews, if they let us into the SFC locker room, or if they just shut the door on us and tell us, get lost. We won't have any interviews then. Yeah, no public apologies being forced out of us, though, thankfully, from either of these teams.
I know what that's up to.
Yeah. It's been a fun season. It's been a long season. Thank you very much for sticking with us to the end of this podcast.
One more
game, baby, and we will see you at the finals. At Mr. CPED, at Full Time Hoops 1, the show's at SD Prep Insider. Let's go ring chasing, baby.